We've got an RCBS piggyback. This particular one is a piggyback 1. There are a few different versions of this piggyback. This is the very first one. I have made some modifications to make this thing run a little bit smoother. These don't necessarily have the best reputation for reliability. So I'll just talk for a minute about some of the differences between the piggyback 1 and this particular device that's sitting right here. So one of the modifications is on the later piggybacks, there was a pin that was added. Let's see if you can take a look at this. I've added one here that allows our indexing to lock in a little bit better. So the piggyback 1 did not have that. The piggyback 2 did. Obviously, I've added one to bring it up to a little smoother operation. And then another major problem with this system is this primer feed system, which is actually fairly precise. If we look at this, this tray moves out. I'll go ahead and set another case and we'll make another round with you able to see this tray slide a little clearer. So you can see it's pulling back now and it's picking up a primer as we go into that stage. As it comes back down, if I can hold that and get it focused, you can see it slides forward and has to slide into a ram that causes the primer to slide up and be seated. Well, that clearance is so very small. If we have any gunpowder on this tray or in that slot or in the little hole or where the pin goes up or where the spring pulls it back down, we have a failure. And that's probably the overwhelming majority of the things that go wrong with this press, is getting a little bit of gunpowder in that system and causing a failure. And then the next thing that I've done is taking a look at this linkage. This is actually the setup that RCBS is using today on their Progressive Pro Series presses. It fits on here in Station 3. Unfortunately, I had it in Station 2, and it was causing problems with my primers also. So 3 is where it needs to run, and it works very, very well. It prevents any gunpowder from falling out onto the tray, which, like I said, is the latest version, not the newest. So the originals all had a problem with the different types of feeds that they used that caused them to dump gunpowder when there was no case, which would then get into the system and cause our primer problem. So really the biggest upgrades to this machine are adding the index pin and adding a system that doesn't allow gunpowder to trickle or fall or sprinkle or slip and end up in the works. That's what causes these RCBSs to not run quite as smooth as they might. Now you can see I've also added on this particular one. I'll run through the stations real quick. So the first one, of course, we're decapping and resizing as normal. The second one, we can expand here, and that's probably the more traditional way that most folks will run this. The third one is I have added an extra piece to my powder drop that actually is an expander. I've got to set it up very meticulously to make that work. And I had it in Station 2. That's why I went through that trouble. But you could use a traditional expander, and then you've got all kinds of play here. It's a lot easier to set up. And then on my back station, my fourth station, I've chosen to use a bullet feeder here, which I just emptied. Kind of had mixed reviews on that myself based on the type of bullet, the weight, the shape. Sometimes works, sometimes not so much. The alternative, probably more traditional and probably the way I'll run this long term, is a powder checker. So by moving this to 3, I had to give up one of the slots, and That'll probably be the powder checker in the long run. This particular bullet that I'm loading today feeds very well through it, so I'll go ahead and use it. Since I've been running this, and by the way, I've been running RCBS's piggyback systems for 25 years or more, but added this linkage just a few years ago. Since then, I do watch this powder checker regularly, every time it moves, just to make sure it's right, and it has not detected a squid round yet. This powder system has not failed. Hasn't given me a double charge, hasn't thrown too much, hasn't thrown a short charge. It has been incredibly accurate with very little spilled gunpowder. So that's very smooth. One other thing I should point out, and in my last stage, of course, is my bullet seating and crimp. If you wanted to run a separate crimp, which I have done in the past as well, this is 45, of course, you could do that on, move the seating die over here to 4, and then, put the crimp on 5 if that's what you wanted to do. It would work. It is a 5-station plate, so you are a little bit limited there. But one other thing, when we were talking about gunpowder spill, it reminded me, the other thing I did is this rod in the center is what causes my rotation. It's got a twist in it. The original piggybacks, that twist was very fast. They were really spinning those cases really quickly. Well, on a 45, a big wide open hole, short case, sometimes a lot of powder, it would tend to spill some powder out, which of course is horrible for your accuracy, but then also causes that gunpowder to get into the works, as I was discussing, which causes our failure. So RCBS, just for asking for it, they will send you a slow turn or slow twist center rod. Very easy to change out. Strongly recommend you do that. It still makes the same rotation, just does it a little gentler, so we're not slinging things quite as much. So that is the RCBS. This particular one is the piggyback, and it's sitting on top of, a good old-fashioned rock chucker here. Nothing special about it. It will mount on a number of presses. And I do, as you can see, I've got some feed primer systems on it as well. I do use it a single stage. It's very fast to convert. Basically, one bolt in the center, you turn out, and there's an adapter on the ram, and off it comes. It's really quick to go back to single stage and switch between the two if you choose to. It does have a small primer feed system and a large primer feed system. They look nearly identical. Obviously, the holes are different sizes. So there is a little bit of setup there if you change from large primer to small. It can take 223s. It can almost take 308s, but really my problem with the 308 is after I've seated the bullet, I don't have quite enough room to clear coming out. So I can run progressive all the way through, except for that last stage. Well, you might as well single stage. A lot of folks do that. But I can do case prep with it as well with rifle cartridges. Just can't set that last bullet. So anyway, if you guys want some more content on how I set this up, how I tune it to keep it running this way, or to set it up to begin with, if you've never got one working correctly, leave something in the comments, and maybe I'll make some more content. This may get 3 views and no one cares. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you for your time.